You are standing at the edge of the ocean. The water is warm around your ankles. Somewhere out past the waves, the seafloor drops away into darkness you cannot see. You do not think about it. Most people never do. But if you swam out far enough, deep enough, you would eventually reach a place where sunlight cannot follow you. And for millions of years, something moved through that darkness that made every other predator in the ocean look small. Its name was Otodus Megalodon. And the real story of what it was is far stranger than the myth. The name itself means big tooth, and that name was not chosen lightly. Long before scientists understood what they were looking at, sailors and coastal communities had already been finding these teeth for centuries, some as large as a human hand, embedded in cliffs and riverbeds far from any modern ocean. Ancient cultures had their own explanations. Some believed the triangular stones were the petrified tongues of dragons, hardened by moonlight. It took naturalists hundreds of years and eventually careful scientific study to recognize what those objects actually were. You have probably seen the pictures. A shark the size of a bus, jaws wide enough to swallow a car, rising up beneath a boat full of screaming tourists. That image is everywhere. Documentaries have used it. Movies have used it. Even serious museums have used it. But almost none of what you picture when you hear the word Megalodon comes from a complete skeleton. It comes from something much smaller and much stranger. Teeth. That is where this story actually begins. Sharks do not have bones the way you do. Their skeletons are made of cartilage, the same flexible tissue in your ears and the tip of your nose. Cartilage does not fossilize well. It breaks down long before it can turn to stone. So when a megalodon died and sank to the ocean floor 20 million years ago, its body simply dissolved into the sediment, piece by piece, until almost nothing remained. Almost nothing except the teeth. Shark teeth are covered in enamel, and enamel survives. A single megalodon could lose and regrow tens of thousands of teeth across its lifetime, constantly shedding old ones as new rows moved forward to replace them. Those teeth rained down onto the seafloor for millions of years, and that is nearly the entire fossil record you are working with. Teeth the size of your hand, vertebrae here and there, and almost nothing else. So how do scientists know how big it actually was? Paleontologist Kenshu Shimada has spent years studying exactly this question, using the mathematical relationship between tooth size and body length in modern sharks to work backward, from fossil teeth to an estimated animal. His research, along with work from researchers like John Long and Catalina Pimiento, suggests Megalodon likely reached somewhere between 15 and 20 meters in length. That is roughly the size of a school bus, sometimes larger. Its jaws alone, reconstructed from tooth arrangement, could have opened wide enough to fit two adult humans standing side by side. But here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. 15 to 20 meters is an estimate built from fragments. Nobody has ever found a complete Megalodon skeleton. Not one. Every jaw reconstruction you have seen in a museum, every full body model, is an educated guess stitched together from isolated teeth and vertebrae, discovered thousands of kilometers apart, sometimes millions of years apart in age. You are looking at a puzzle with most of the pieces missing, and scientists filling in the gaps with careful, disciplined extrapolation. Now picture what an animal that size actually needed to survive. Megalodon was not just big. It was an apex predator with an appetite to match its size, likely feeding on whales, large fish, and other marine mammals. Bite marks preserved on fossilized whale bones show deep, curved gouges, consistent with megalodon teeth. Some of them healed over, meaning the whale survived the attack. Others show no healing at all. That animal did not survive. For roughly 15 million years, Megalodon ruled the open ocean with almost nothing above it on the food chain. It likely gave birth to live young in warm, shallow nurseries, protected waters where juveniles could grow safely before venturing into open water. Some fossil sites, like the one studied in Panama by Catalina Pimiento's team, appear to preserve exactly these kinds of nursery grounds. Clusters of smaller megalodon teeth suggesting young sharks gathered there for safety and food. Then, around 3.6 million years ago, it disappeared. Why? This is where the science gets genuinely interesting, because the answer is not one single dramatic event. It is a slow collapse built from several pressures stacking on top of each other. A 2016 study led by Catalina Pimiento examined the geographic range of megalodon fossils over time and found something striking. Long before Megalodon vanished completely, its range had already been shrinking for millions of years. It was not wiped out in a single moment. It was squeezed slowly from multiple directions at once. The first pressure was the ocean itself changing. As the planet cooled during the Pliocene, sea levels dropped and warm, shallow coastal waters, the kind Megalodon likely used as nurseries for its young, began disappearing. Fewer nurseries meant fewer surviving juveniles. The second pressure was competition. Around the same period, a new predator was rising through the ranks of the open ocean. The great white shark, faster, more efficient, and able to thrive in cooler water than Megalodon preferred. began competing for many of the same food sources. Some researchers argue this competition, layered onto an already shrinking habitat, was enough to tip the balance permanently. The third pressure was the prey itself. Many of the large whale species Megalodon likely depended on were also declining and evolving during this period, some shifting toward colder polar waters that Megalodon's biology may not have tolerated well. None of these three pressures alone would necessarily have been enough. Together, stacked across millions of years, they were. So Megalodon did not exist right up until some dramatic final extinction event. The fossil record shows something quieter and honestly more believable. A slow closing door. And yet the myth refuses to die. You have almost certainly seen the claim online. Somewhere in the deepest trenches of the ocean, in places humans have barely explored, Megalodon is still out there. This idea exploded into mainstream culture in 2013 when a cable network aired a fake documentary presenting fabricated evidence that Megalodon might still be alive today. It was pure fiction, dressed up convincingly enough that a portion of the audience believed it was real science. The network later admitted the special was fictional, but the claim had already spread faster than the correction ever could. Here is why marine biologists find the idea implausible, not because it is impossible to imagine, but because of what Megalodon actually needed to survive. An apex predator that size required enormous quantities of food, warm water, and shallow coastal nurseries for its young. The deep ocean trenches people imagine it hiding in are cold, food scarce, and almost nothing like the environment Megalodon depended on for millions of years. An animal built for warm coastal hunting does not simply relocate to the deep abyss and continue thriving in secret. There is also a simpler problem. Sharks that size leave evidence. A living population of ocean giants would leave fresh teeth, feeding marks on modern whale carcasses, occasional sightings from submersibles and deep-sea cameras that now regularly explore even the most remote parts of the ocean. None of that evidence exists. Not one confirmed modern Megalodon tooth, not one unexplained bite mark on a living whale. So no, Megalodon almost certainly does not exist today. But notice what that sentence requires you to accept. Almost. Not 100% certain, just extremely, overwhelmingly unlikely based on everything scientists have found so far. And that gap, that small space between what is proven and what is merely very probable, is exactly why this story keeps pulling people back in. Because the deep ocean is still mostly unmapped. Scientists have better maps of the surface of Mars than they do of large sections of the ocean floor, right here on your own planet. New species are still being discovered in deep water every single year. Some of them strange enough that if you had described them a century ago, people would have called them myths too. Giant squid were once considered nothing more than sailors' folklore, until real specimens eventually surfaced and forced science to catch up with the stories. Megalodon really did exist. It really was as terrifying as you imagine, an apex predator with no true rival for 15 million years. And it really did disappear, slowly, squeezed out by a cooling planet, faster competitors, and shifting prey. The evidence for all of that is solid, but the reason the myth of a living Megalodon refuses to die is not really about the shark at all. It is about what the ocean represents to you, a place still mostly unexplored, still capable of surprising the people who study it for a living. You are far more comfortable believing every mystery has already been solved than sitting with the truth, which is that the deepest parts of your own planet remain less understood than the surface of another world. So the next time you stand at the edge of the water, ankles wet, sun on your shoulders, remember that they drop off past the waves is not just deep. It is largely unknown. Megalodon is gone, but the darkness that once hid it is still down there, and no one has finished mapping what else it might be hiding. If you want to know more ocean secrets, go watch this video.